Hi, Math 30-2's probability lesson 2, odds and probability. So we're going to learn the big difference between those two terms today, okay? So basically at the top it says probability theory deals with the mathematics of chance. So in the first part here, we're talking about experimental probability, okay? And it consists of multiple trials, okay? And it's determined by the probability of event A. Remember, that's what that notation means, is the number of times event A occurs over the total number of trials. So remember, n is the number of. So the number of times event A occurs over the number of trials. In the second one, we're discussing theoretical probability, okay? So again, the probability of A is this time the outcomes favorable at A, the number, over the total number of outcomes in the sample space, okay? Now, we learned about both of those last day, okay, what those terms mean and how we use them. In the examples in this lesson, the probabilities used could have been obtained by experiment or by theory. So consider the following example. We have 4 black counters and 5 white counters placed in a bag. One of the counters is selected at random. So state the probability that the counter selected is black. Okay, well, in that bag there are a total of 9 counters and 4 of them are black. So that would be 4 black counters out of a total of 9 counters. Okay, the probability of not black, okay, so you can see the little tick there, okay, indicating not B or not black. Well, if there's 9 counters, 4 are black, that means 5 are not black. So 5 not black counters out of a total of 9. The statements below, the events black and not black, are called, so from last day we learned those were called complementary events. Okay, remember those two values always have to add up to the number 1, or as percentages they will add up to 100%. And that's what the next question basically is. The sum of the probabilities of the two events is equal to the number 1 in this case, right? If you take 4 over 9 and you add it to 5 over 9, okay, you will get 9 over 9, okay, which again reduces to 1 or 100%. Now, odds, okay? The probability of black can be determined by the number of black counters over the total number of counters, where S is the sample space. So the chance of selecting a black counter was 5 out of 9, and a non-black, or getting a non-black counter, would be 5 out of 9. It is less likely that a black counter will be selected than a non-black counter, okay? So hopefully you can see that with the numbers, okay? The chance of getting a black counter is less than non-black. We can express this relationship in a ratio with what we call odds. So odds is going to be a ratio. So two important terms here, okay? We're going to have odds for, and then we're going to have odds against, okay? So the odds for selecting a black counter are 4 to 5. The odds against for selecting a black counter are 5 to 4. So the way we read these numbers is, okay, I want the black counter. So this would be black counter to not black counter, okay, because it's 4. What I want comes first. Odds against is, okay, what's against me versus what would be for me, okay? So odds for and against, the word for and against is basically very important when you're reading that expression. Odds for, okay, so what we have here basically in blue is often referred to as odds in favor of. Odds are normally expressed in a ratio 4 to 5, but can also be expressed vertically as 4 over 5, okay? But that's less common, okay? It's most like we have 4 and then 5, okay, written horizontally. So we have the following formulas, this is the next page now already, for the event A, okay? So when we have odds, like I said, in favor of A, it would be the number of outcomes in favor of A and then the number of outcomes against A. When I have odds against A, it would be the number of outcomes against A and then the number of outcomes for A. So the same numbers up as above, but just reversed. Now probability, okay, probability is different. That's what we've been talking about. It's the number of outcomes favorable to A over the total number of outcomes. So when we talk about odds is always a part to part ratio, whereas probability is the part over the whole, okay? And that's probably the best explanation you're going to get for odds versus probability. Odds is always part to part, probability is part over whole. So for the example in the review, determine the odds in favor of a white counter being selected. So this is odds, and this time it's in favor, okay, of white. So what you want is how many white counters? There were 5 white counters to 4 not white counters. The odds against a white counter, so this time against a white counter. So 4 not white and then 5 that are white. Okay, so again, in favor of versus against. Okay, even odds, okay, an important phrase, are when the odds for and against are equal. So when we have even odds, the ratio 1-to-1 is sometimes used, or a lot of people will always say 50-50. Okay, those are odds. So when it's the same for as against, 1-to-1 is the ratio it can be reduced to, but a lot of people will just refer to that as 50-50. So in class example 2, it says, after suffering a heart attack, Dudley's doctor told him that he had even odds. Okay, so that phrase you want to pick out in questions when you see it. Even odds of making a full recovery. What is the probability that Dudley will make a full recovery? So he has even odds. So that means when I write out his odds, okay, the odds of him making a full recovery are 1-to-1, or if you want to write 50-50, that's fine. But the question is asking, what's the probability? Well, remember in odds, it's always part to part, right? When I talk about probability, okay, I want part to whole. So in this case, the probability then is 1/2, right? Because the 2 parts add up to the whole that makes the 2. Okay, that's the whole piece. These 2 ones here, part and part, make up that whole, which is 2. So the probability is 1/2. Now, Stephanie has been told that the probability she will make a full recovery is 0.65. Express in lowest terms the odds in favor of Stephanie making a full recovery. So the first thing is that the probability is 0.65. So when I talk about that probability equaling 0.65, okay, I know that that is 65 hundredths, or 65 over 100, okay? Now, when I take a look at that, and I now want to write that in terms of odds, okay, remember odds has to be part to part, doesn't it? Okay, so they want the odds in favor of Stephanie making a full recovery. So her making a full recovery is 65. The part where she would not make a full recovery, therefore, is 35. Now, where does that come from? Well, 65 plus 35 is 100. Okay, remember, probability is the part to the whole, right? So the 2 parts always have to add up to the whole, which in this case is 100. So in favor of is 65, she will recover. 35, she will not recover. And I can reduce 65 to 35 to 13 to 7. That's your answer there. So there are the odds in favor of Stephanie making a full recovery. Next question, okay? It says, when placing bets on horse races, the chances that each horse will win are often quoted as odds. In a particular 5-horse race, the odds against each horse winning are quoted below. So again, that's very important. The odds that are given are against each horse winning. So which horse is the favorite to win? So the odds against, okay, means this, right? The numbers when they're listed are basically telling you this: not win to win. Okay, that's what those numbers are telling you, because it's against them winning. So the first number is the number of times they will not win to the number of times they will win. So which horse is the favorite to win the race? Well, the favorite to win the race would be Free Spirit, right? Because Free Spirit has 2 losses to every win, right? 2 not wins to every 1 win. Okay, the other horses have way more times they will not win compared to the number of times they win. So Free Spirit is the favorite to win then. So describe what is meant by the phrase odds 2-to-1 against. Well, in this case, that's Free Spirit, right? So that's the horse that they are talking about here. Free Spirit will not win 2 times for every 1 time he does win. Okay, and that's what that 2-to-1 means in this case, because it's odds against. So that's what we have here, okay? The probability, you don't have to write this because they don't ask for it, they just ask where that phrase is, but the probability, okay, for Free Spirit, okay, winning, okay, is 1 out of 3, right? 1 win for every 3 races, okay? So the probability for Free Spirit to win would be 1 out of 3. Okay, and that's what they're going to ask us on the next page, okay? Determine the probability of the horses winning the race, okay? So if we talk about Free Spirit, now this time they want the probability of the horses winning the race, okay? So they want to know the number of wins. So Free Spirit will have 1 win for every 3 races, right? The 2 plus 1, which gives me the 3. The part and the part, 2 and 1, give me that whole, which is 3. When I go to Willow, okay, Willow will be 1 win for every 4 races. The parts 3 and 1 give me the whole on the bottom, which is 4. Okay, then I move to Foxtrot. Okay, Foxtrot will be 2 wins for every 9 races. The 2 parts 7 and 2 give me the 9 in the denominator. Gloria. Okay, Gloria will be 1 out of 9. Okay, and the last one is Lucky Joe. Okay, and Lucky Joe will be 1 out of 12. Okay, the parts 11 and 1 add up to 12 total. Determine the sum of the probabilities in C. Explain your answer. So if I take all of those probabilities, so I go 1 out of 3 plus 1 out of 4 plus 2 over 9 plus 1 over 9 plus 1 over 12. Okay, what you'll see is that adds up to the number 1. Okay, now the reason being that it has to add up to 1 is one of these horses must win the race, okay? Those are the only horses that are in the race. If there was, other horses in the race, then not necessarily would those probabilities have to add up to 1, but because those are the only horses in this race, okay, their probabilities must add up to the number 1. Okay, and then last question here, what are the odds in favor of Foxtrot winning the race? Okay, well, if you take a look at Foxtrot, it was 7 to 2. That was not win to win. So now they want him to win. So it would be win to not win. Okay, you switch the numbers around because now it's in favor of him winning. Okay, and that's it for today's lesson. Okay, pretty short, but again, the difference between odds and probability, you want to remember that odds are always part to part and probability is part compared to whole. All right, and in favor of versus odds against, very big difference. So make sure you're pulling that out of the questions or highlighting those key phrases as you work through the questions. Okay, have a good night, you guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.